Hello, my friend. You've
Right.
been out. If you jump out, if your phone jumps out, then just I will see if you come back in.
Oh, yeah, I noticed. Thank you. I have been trying to do it on my laptop and then my iPad, and oh, I'm here now. I just wanted to ask about the exercise at the beginning. Um, this thing about space being created in the brain, in the mind. Um, there have been times when recently that I've looked at things and there's just been the colours and the shapes, and sometimes I don't even know what it is. So I've had some experiences like that recently. But when we were doing the exercise, when we were talking about space not existing and it's created in the mind, in the brain, a thought came up about wanting to understand. I know it's my mind wanting to understand. When I open my eyes and there's an object there, I suppose I'm asking what the definition of space is. When there's an object in front and I can touch the object and then I can touch the wall behind it, I call that space. And I can see it and I can touch it. So my thought is, well, I'm not imagining that.
Aren't you?
Well, what do you call the space between an object
Well,
and
we know now. We know now. If we lean up to quantum mechanics, and that's why all of it is so absolutely crazy. We know now that you can never touch anything, right? It's just there is a density in the field here, and there's a density in the field here. So when I
yeah,
go like this, it from this viewpoint, as a human being in this field, it's like that the space gets here between is less dense than here and here. And that field gets less and less and less until now there's no space between the two. Right?
there's a sensation when that occurs,
Yeah.
when the
Quantum
meeting occurs?
mechanics, we know in quantum mechanics, we know that there is nothing but space. We just perceive it as
What is
that
the
there is no
sensation?
space. Pardon?
What is the sensation that is experienced here when something meets? When your hand meets the bottle,
You
is
have a
there a
bottle of
first?
something in front of you.
I've got a book.
You got a book. Perfect. So you have the book in one hand and you have the other hand. I can see you're holding your phone. That this is gonna be fun. Use your third hand for this. So you have the book here and you have your hand here. There's a density in the field here. There's a density in the field here. Apparently, for human beings, there's less density in the field here.
Yeah.
But that's only for us, right? That's only with our perception.
Okay.
You know, we know from quantum mechanics that is not the case, that all of it is atoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when your hand gets closer and closer and closer to the book, so now you hold the book in your hand, it feels like there's no space between the hand and the book, right? And yet your mind is telling you that part of this that is going on here, it's a hand, and the other part is a book. Right. Now I'd like for you to close your eyes,
Yeah.
keep holding the book, and notice on how it feels in your fingers when you hold the book. You can feel your fingers and you can feel the book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'd like for you to notice where the fingers meet the book.
Well, I can't with my eyes closed.
No, you keep your eyes closed and don't move your fingers. Don't move your fingers. So I would like for you to notice where the fingers meet the book. You can't feel where the fingers meet the book, right?
No, I'm assuming the
Yes,
feeling is where they're meeting. The
yes, yes.
sensation is where they're
Perfect.
meeting.
Yes. If you keep having your eyes closed and you keep sitting and feeling into that sensation where the fingers meet the book. Right now, you have an assumed sensation. In a moment, the book is going to dissolve and you can't feel the book anymore.
Oh, my mind is.
No, but no matter how long time you sit, and it's part of the receptors. It's what the receptors does, because
Okay.
the
Is that
the receptors will get used to the pressure, and
okay?
in that the sensation of the book will dissolve, and there will only be sensation. There's no
Okay.
difference between the fingers or the book anymore. The book and the
No.
fingers are the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you feel that?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
And it's also all the eyes are on you right now. Lots of
I'm
expectation.
feeling. I'm a. I can feel a sensation. I'm not. Well, if I don't think about a book or a hand, then it's just
But
the
even okay, do it afterwards. Do it afterwards where you don't feel the pressure anymore. But we don't feel the pressure of all the people
yeah.
what
I have a
and
big
then
thing about getting things right.
yeah. I get that. I get that. But then if you do the exercise and you really feel into it, even though you're sitting and telling yourself there is a book between my fingers, that is you it will become very, very apparent that that is just a thought because you cannot feel the book anymore. There's no difference between your fingers and your book. The book is you and the fingers are the book. Everything is the same if your eyes are closed.
So space, which is
That's
the thing.
nothing but in an atom it's like 99% 9 yeah 99.99999% it's just space.
So the
There's
space
nothing but
between,
space. It's just in our meat suit that is perceived as if there's density.
but regarding space between objects,
Hmm?
that's regarding space between objects. I suppose I'm trying to. I don't get that. That's imaginary.
The best way to do it is to experience it, because right now you're sitting you're sitting and trying to think yourself into an understanding of it, and that doesn't
Yeah.
work. You can't think of
No.
it. I mean, you can think yourself into a unicorn if you want to, so
Gosh.
thinking does anything, doesn't do anything. You
So
need to do a practical application of it. You need to sit and feel. For
yeah.
example, the sweater you're wearing,
Yeah.
right? You're wearing a sweater, exactly. Um, right now, it feels as if this is the recognition of the brain that there's a body, there's a meat suit, and there's a sweater, and that's how it is. That is the recognition. But if you close your eyes and feel, then the sensory experience that you have is that there's no difference between the sweater and your body.
No. Yeah.
There's no space between it. You can't feel when you end and the sweater begins.
No.
Okay, what is
No.
happening in you?
I was thinking about space again.
So
Space.
yeah. So there's a lot of diversion happening all the time.
Oh,
Do
I'm
you want
so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Diversion is just a protection mechanism. It's completely okay. It's completely okay. Whatever diversion you're doing, it's because you're beginning to touch on something that you're not completely ready for yet. And there's no way you can be forceful about it. Just like Lila just talked about, with the seed, that
Yeah.
if you just plant it, if you plant a seed right now,
Yeah.
where you start to become aware of the space between two two objects and really question if there is a space between the two objects. and then really, really feel into it and not be forceful about it at all, but just allow it to be as it is.
Okay, okay.
Then
I
and
don't know.
then and then you can do it with your bum on the chair. You can do it with your fork and your hand. You can do it with your reaching out to opening the fridge or anything.
Well, I don't know if I made myself clear. I'll just check. I was talking about the distance between objects. Well, I suppose it's the same thing. Or the
Yes.
space, or when there's not something touching each other. Oh, I don't really know what I'm saying, maybe. But yeah. But,
Yeah. I
when that
just I just saw Todd logged in. Todd, are you here? You're muted if you're saying anything. Hello.
Hey, sorry, I was checking my emails and listening. Sorry. Hey,
And now I put you on the spot.
it's
Hello, my love.
okay.
Did you have
Hello.
a good meeting?
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Would you like to make an inquiry with Beth about the distance between things?
Sure, of course, of course.
sorry, we did a thing at the beginning and were inquiring into space being, oh, I don't know, Penelope, help me out if I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. In the
Yeah.
beginning,
The
in the
fact that
beginning,
space is imaginary, and I was thinking, well, there's a perceived distance between objects,
Mm,
not things that are touching, things that are next to each other or over there, and there's something here, not touching necessarily. And I was just musing on that and didn't quite. I mean, I know my mind can't understand it, but
yeah, it's definitely not about the mind understanding it, or really what it is that sense of distance that we have is a mental overlay that we put on it after what we see. So what we're pointing to is this kind of flat two-dimensionality of things before that extra layer gets added to it. So if it makes more sense, let's try something. So instead of using two external objects and pointing them against each other, let's use you and another object in the room. So do you have something that's maybe 4 or 5, 6 feet away from you that you can look at?
yes, the stool.
Okay, perfect. So if you take the stool, and what I want you to do is focus your attention on that stool and notice if it looks initially like it is somewhere across the room.
Yeah. Yes, it does look across the room.
It does. So do you notice if you hold your attention on that stool that there is a subtle pulling back that happens? So if you try to keep your attention focused on that stool, see if you can hold your attention on it in one spot, or if you notice after a couple seconds, if there seems to be a pulling back of attention into the body.
Oh,
Maybe,
yes, that happens all the time. I can't pay attention very much to anything. Yeah.
yeah, so it does happen all the time. And basically what it is us checking something out there, and there's this idea that, okay, it's out there, it's not me. Checking back into the body, like, oh, I'm here, I'm at approximately this distance from it. And this whole calculation is sort of happening below the surface. We're not really aware of it most of the time. But what I'd like you to do is to keep your eye focused on that stool. See if you can hold your gaze on it out without coming back into the body. And I want you to notice what it feels like to project a sense of distance between here and there. So if you were imagining that you have a thread or something in the middle of your chest, if you were tying that thread to the stool, does it seem like the thread is going out from you, out across the room to the stool?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it possible to recognize that that stool, instead of being out there where this thread is coming out of your chest out towards the stool, that actually that stool where you're pointing to is there's a there's a way of feeling it. I don't want to just tell you it. I want
I,
to try to get you
I,
to
can I say
sorry.
something?
Yeah, please.
I am aware that if I do this thread business with it,
Yeah.
that is different. Something happens if I do that from something is different if I do that to paying attention to the stool.
Different in what way?
When I'm paying attention and looking, it's I mean, I'm an artist, so I'm used to looking at things. I can see different tones. I'm looking at it as a whole. I'm not very good. If I can't pay attention to the whole thing, then I can't really pay attention to it. So I'm looking at it as a whole.
You should really have, actually, as an artist, you should have sort of a leg up on this, because
Yeah.
You recognize when you're looking at something that seems three-dimensional, that you're actually seeing it in a rather flat two-dimensional way, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You're trying to paint 3 dimensions, you can't actually do that.
No.
So do you
Yeah,
have a
if I walk up to it and put my hand between the legs,
yeah,
it would move and my hand would touch one leg and then I'd move my hand and it would touch the other. So that's what's
so
telling me there's space.
if we take it though, so when
You-
we're talking about this stuff, it's not to say that there isn't literally you know, a reason why you might need to get into a car and drive 3 miles to go to the store. You know, it's not saying
Okay.
that literally
I'm a
you
bit
can move
literal.
into the
I take
store
a bit
from like
so literally.
yeah. It has to do, the whole point that we do this is that there is an idea that there is a subject in you which is still at a distance from something else in the world. And it's this feeling of the sense of space where we're actually checking back at this more subtle sense of self that we take ourselves to be. It's a subtler level than the first fetter self
Yeah.
illusion. But when we're looking at the visual world on its own, as you know, everything is showing up as a flat two-dimensional space. There is within us this sort of feeling of the creation of distance as a mental image that takes what is really right here in front of us. You know, there's looking at the visual field in front of you right now. If instead of looking at just the stool, you take the entire totality of what's in front of you in the visual field, if you take it all in as one whole, can you get a sense that there's any sense of distance between what is appearing in the visual field and something which is viewing it from behind?
Could you say that again?
Yeah. So if you take in the entire visual field as a whole,
Yeah.
is there a feeling that there is something which is viewing that field from a distance, almost like they're sitting in a movie theater watching a screen?
Yes, my head.
Can you be more specific about that?
My eyes.
I need more specifics than that too. Does it seem like can you see your eyes? Where I'm
Well,
not sure.
I can on the phone. No, I
Yeah.
can't see I can. If I'm blinking, I can see my nose. I can feel my eyes blinking. No, I can't see them.
But in the visual image itself, just in the visual field, not going with any physical
I
sensation.
see. Okay.
just in the visual field itself, is there any distance between everything that's appearing, the totality of what's appearing, and a watcher or a viewer, a subject, something which is actually seeing the visual field from a distance?
No, not really.
No. So does it feel, with that recognition, that what was taken to be a visual field where things were spaced out, maybe 4 feet away, 6 feet away, 10
Yeah.
feet away, is actually all happening at the same sort of zero distance, right here?
Not like that, but it seems all together.
Good.
Sometimes I've seen things and they're flat, and I've
Yeah.
looked at them and I've thought, oh, that looks flat. That's what I've heard people, you say. And then it sort of goes away, or I look at something and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
So I think that's a bit what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's two different things at the same time. The first thing is the thing that Todd is talking about, that we perceive as if there's something out there and there's a viewer here looking at it. But if you really just look at it, all that is out there is happening at the zero distance, like we talked about earlier. That there's a perception out there that is reflected in here, and it's just something that is recognized. We're not really seeing it as it is. That's the one thing what Todd was just leading you through. The other thing was the one that we were talking about just before Todd came on with the book that you're holding in your hand, that the perception that we have that there is a distance between that and that there's a density in the field here and a density in the field here and less density here. That is just because we're human beings, and that is how we perceive the world. Our nervous system is made so we perceive the world like that. And it's only your eyes that is telling you that now the field get less, 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 and now there's no distance whatsoever. It's only your eyes that is telling you that, because if you close your eyes, the field where the book is, or the bottle is, and the hand is, the space between those two will disappear. If you close your eyes, there's no difference between your fingers and the book that you're holding right now. And if you keep holding it and you keep having your eyes closed, the book will disappear, because there is no book. It's only as human beings in our physical meat suit, the way that we are constructed, that we perceive it as if there is a book. In reality, if you were, I don't know, something else that we haven't discovered yet, a Martian, let's say, they might not see density of field the way that we perceive it.
Yeah.
Which means for them that there would be no difference in the density of field. It would just be one big soup, all of it. But because we're human beings, and because we have the meat suit, and because the meat suit is perceiving the world around us through the 5 senses, there is a density in the field, and a density in the field, and less density in the field. But remove one of the senses, and that is no longer the case. So those are two different ways that you can play with this experience about distance.
I can hear my fingers now on the book, so that brings another thing into it. Hearing, doesn't it? Exactly. A bit much.
Exactly. It's what I said with the 5 senses. It's only the 5 senses that is telling you that there is a book and a Beth. If you remove any of those senses, or all of the senses, there's no difference.
And you can do the same sort of thing with each of the sentences, with each of the senses. Like, so if you feel like you're hearing your fingertips on a book, and it seems like that book is a few inches away, then hear the sound and notice, is the sound actually coming from this distance, or is what you're hearing still happening right in here? Like, it's at that space. It's just, we have this idea that if I hear a sound up close, this is very loud, and then it gets quieter, And so a quieter sound means that it must be further away. And this is just something that the brain has learned over the course of many years. And it's taken that on as an assumption that anytime you hear a quiet tappy sound, it's further away than a loud tappy sound. And if I hear it closer to this ear, it means it's more to my left side. And if I hear it closer to this ear, it's more to my right side. And that's all processing that's happening. But you can actually experience it if you pay enough attention to just the sound without the thoughts of this is my fingers tapping on a book or anything else that goes with it. Just come to the raw sensation of sound and you'll recognize that actually it's all happening right in here. So the traffic at miles away, the birds outside, people talking, everything else is all happening in exactly the same space. The idea of distance is something that we put onto the sounds based on the triangulation of the ears and what we've learned about how loud certain sounds are supposed to be at a distance.
Mm.
So
Thanks.
yeah, absolutely. But you can collapse any of your senses like that. Collapse the space, not the actual sensing of it, but you can collapse the space between the sense, the idea that there is something here which is hearing something at a distance, there is something here which is seeing something at a distance, and you recognize that, as the Bahia Sutra says, there's just seeing and just hearing, and that there isn't a witness that is putting any sort of space between those two things.
Yeah. That has happened some.
Exactly. So when you feel those sorts of things, or when you have those sorts of experiences, those are the ones to pay attention to and recognize what it felt like. And then coming back later on to, if you remember what you were doing that maybe precipitated that, and then also see if you can, by using memory, flip back into what that felt like until you get like a real feel for the difference between having a collapsed sense of space and time and sound and all of that versus a projected out sense.
One of just a little quick story. One of my favorite, doesn't happen that often, but it has happened quite often in my life, is when you forget what you're wearing, and I look up. It's just so funny. And it's like I don't have any clothes on almost. I don't know what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
And it's like an amazing feeling. And I just sort of look up and I just don't know what I'm wearing until I remember. The thought comes. It does often come and then I remember what I'm wearing, and I'm wearing something again. But until that point, I'm not wearing anything. Well, I know I'm wearing clothes, but I don't know what they are.
Until the point that you look down, do you even have a body? When you're in a place like that.
Thinking. Well, I don't know. It's usually the thought comes in. Yeah, what I'm wearing. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you okay with staying on, Sam?
Yeah, I got a little while.
Got Lisa. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
So I just had a quick question about, what about like the opposite about what you were just talking about? Like, what's been happening to me lately is I spent a lot of time out in the woods with my dog, and he was wild, and so he has to run, and I put goat bells on him so I can hear him, so I don't lose him. But he will